another episode of StriveUp, the Startup Chronicles with nasscom Insights. For today's episode, we have a very special guest with us, Ankit Agarwal, co-founder of SmartUdyog. Welcome, Ankit.
Thanks, Madhumay.
SmartUdyog revolutionizes factory operations by using advanced industrial IoT technology to boost machine and workforce productivity through direct machine communication without the need for sensors. To kick things off, give me the elevator pitch, Ankit. What does your startup do exactly? And what kind of problems are you trying to solve with SmartUdyog?
Thanks, Madhumay, for the introduction of the company. My company name is SmartUdyog. We are into industrial machine communication. India is on the verge of manufacturing transformation.
Yeah.
And we still are reliant on technologies which are coming outside from India, like Europe, US, China, Taiwan. We wanted to build those technologies in-house in India so that we can have direct control over those technologies. And machine are the core of our thesis. We believe that the most important resources on the manufacturing floor are the machineries, because operators, they come and go, right? They need training. Machineries are there for 10-15 years. So we operate on that premise, and we optimize the usage of the machineries by talking to machineries. We have enabled the communication of machineries, thousands of types of machineries, through hundreds of types of machineries through our libraries, and that optimizes the shop floor. It is a very relevant solution for small, medium, and big enterprises. These solutions were coming outside from India, but we are building it in-house with full stack.
Wonderful. Every founder has a story behind why they started. What inspired you to take the entrepreneurial plunge, and what have been some of the biggest lessons so far?
That's a very good question, actually. Before starting up, I had an experience of around 12 years in industry and worked for various industries. Talking about me personally, I have worked with some of the other startups which are now big companies in India, like Delivery and Grey Orange. And I worked with the founders also there for a brief period of time. They inspired me, actually, right? And the kind of problems they picked up to solve, and they solved eventually, right? That was amazing to see. During the course of my experience, I did consulting also. I worked with big conglomerates like Adani also. I realized that the core part, right, of the problem is that we are not building it something out of India. The fields which I was working on, so I realized that this can be made. We have the capability, right? It's just about taking the plunge, right? To take the plunge and start solving the problems. We saw the business opportunities also. So my other co-founder, he is a graduate from ISB. He saw the business opportunity of solving those problems also. So that is why we took that entrepreneurial plunge. And obviously the founders of other companies, they motivate us. And also the vision of the Indian diaspora to achieve something on the international floor, that inspires us to build something.
Okay, that's great. There's so many players in AI, ML, IoT, and analytics. What do you differentiate yourself from the pack? And what's the competitive edge?
Yeah. So great question again. So there are a lot of companies who say that they are working on AI, ML, IoT, right? And the basic differentiation where I would start from is the control on hardware, actually, right? So when we started up, there were the hardwares were coming from Europe and China, right? And people were only focusing on software. I'll just give you an example. I went along with my co-founder to Taiwan for a very big exhibition there. And we realized that most of the hardware was coming from Taiwan itself, right? We were not building something in-house. That creates two kinds of problems. One is that you don't have the control over hardware, so you cannot modify and adopt it to the criterias and environment of Indian diaspora. Second, that if you want to scale it up, then you are dependent upon outside India, right? So we try to build that hardware in-house. We have direct control on the complete hardware, right? So our gateways, we have completely built it in-house, designed up. It took us 4 or 5 years to develop that. So that's what the differentiation factor is. And when we developed the hardware, we understood that software differentiation also comes into play automatically, right? So when you develop the hardware, you know what would work, what would not work, right? So that is why we think that we are different from the others out there. And in terms of the amalgamation of these technologies, right, what we have done is we have understood the Indian environment also. For example, you have a very low internet penetration today, right? As of today also, you don't have 100% internet penetration. As vis-a-vis, if you compare Europe, you have 100% internet penetration and IoT penetration. So we designed the hardware to suit the environment. If the installation is in remote place, how would we communicate to the device, right? If the plant is in remote place, how would we reach to the machinery? The operators who are operating on the machinery are not that skilled. They don't know English. They know vernacular languages, right? So those kinds of things we solved so that we can solve the problems of small players also. We are solving problems for big players, but we want to start small and solve it for the MSME, the big 70% MSME of India.
Okay, that's great, Ankit. Nothing resonates better than the real world example.
Yes.
Hit me with a couple of coolest client stories that you may have to showcase the impact of the solution.
Right. Let me take two examples. One a relatively big company, one a small company. So for the big company, they were investing around 30 crores of capex on their shop floor every year, right? And they were not knowing what was the ROI of their machineries, right? So the Indian community, the Indian businessmen, they invest something to realize their benefits in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what is happening on the shop floor, you cannot realize the benefits, right? And those results come after 1 or 2 years. You have already lost the capex, right? So when we introduced our solution of machine communication, factory floor optimization, they started realizing the ROI from day one. What is their target ROI and what is their current ROI? They started literally talking to the machines, right? What are the machines performing, how they're performing, what is the future projection and everything, right? So they were able to save their capex investment by 50% over the next 2 years. So that in itself was amazing ROI for them, right? So and then they started realizing that the operators are temporary, right? 3 months the operators are gone, you have to train them again. But if you build the machinery interface or the robust machinery interface, then you can adopt the operators and you can train the operators pretty quickly, right? Because the systems are in place.
Yeah.
And also, if you, I just wanted to bring this point also, that if you compare Indian manufacturing floor to a Chinese manufacturing floor, I have seen couple of other manufacturing floors in other countries also. They're really advanced, right? If we say that we want to compete with China and China 1+ policy, China +2 policy, we have to adopt those systems. Those systems for internal realization also, and systems for reporting the quality and having the confidence on that quality. Indian manufacturing is not having that kind of quality confidence which it should have. We are producing tremendously good equipments and parts, but still we are not able to offer that quality in terms of that confidence, right? So that increases with the solution. The second example I wanted to take, one of the customers, they wanted the data to come out because they wanted it to be used for reporting purposes, right? So what kind of energy they are using, what kind of carbon footprint they are creating, those kinds of things. They were using some technology from outside India, right? They suddenly realized that all the data was going to China. Yes. Right? And they were not having any control of the data, and though all the machineries was connected to Chinese servers, right? So it doesn't solve the ROI kind of thing, but it impacts the national goal, I would say, right? If you don't have the control over China, control over the data, and it is going to the outside country, you are actually giving your control of the manufacturing floor to someone else, right? So we wanted to bring that again to Indian control as such, and that's a very beautiful use case, and we now realize that it's a bigger problem just than the manufacturing floor optimization. It's the data problem, right? So just sharing two examples with you.
Right.
Yeah.
I know, I get it. I get it. Ankit, let's do some future gazing.
Yeah.
Where do you see your startup heading to the next few years, and both in terms of product roadmap as well as the business side of things?
Right. So we created a Harvard product, which is essentially industrial edge server. We call it an industrial edge server, which enables the factory floor to do distributed computing on the edge, right? And it also has AI ML applications, right? So if you want to introduce certain applications on the edge, certain AI ML applications, talk to the machine, take decisions on the edge itself, we have introduced that product. We are enhancing that product to be very robust and to be used by large manufacturing players, right? So that infrastructure is set up in a very fast-paced environment. If I take an example, generally the digitization programs, they take around 36 to 48 months for an industry. We have reduced that amounts by 3x. Right, so when we introduce our solutions, it's such plug and play solution that in fact in 9 to 12 months you are up and running for any kind of digital transformation. So that's our target. So we are increasing the robustness of our products. We are also increasing the types of products we have in terms of the hardware. In terms of software, we have introduced a lot of AI ML applications so that you can take decisions on the spot and you can realize that ROI. We are introducing an MES solution very soon, which would be one of its kind based out of India. Currently, the MES solutions, MES stands for Manufacturing Execution System. All the MES systems were coming from outside India and from big players, Siemens, Dassault. And even outside the country also, if you go to an MSME in Europe or US, they would not be able to afford that kind of Dassault and Siemens solution. But what we are bringing in, we will target that 70% of the market MSME, who can use that MES and solve their manufacturing floor problems. Actually, it would be one-stop operating system for the manufacturing floor. That's what our target is. We'll launch, I think, in this year, early next year, or this end of this year.
Thank you so much, Ankit, for those insights with the viewers. So that's the wrap for today's episode of StriveUp, the Startup Chronicles with NASScom Insights. We had an amazing conversation with Ankit, discovering how SmartUdyog is leveraging cutting-edge technology to transform manufacturing processes. Their innovative solutions are driving significant improvement in efficiency and productivity for factories. Stay tuned for more updates on the Indian tech ecosystem with NASScom Insights. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you again next time. Thank you.
Thank you.